Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is Accorded Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of being joined once more by referee extraordinaire Eric Melikian. Eric, what's going on, my man?
Hey Adam, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Just kind of, I never the wrestler, but I feel kind of like road long. I kind of made a sneak trip into Vegas and what have you, and that was on Tuesday. But I feel like I'm still kind of not paying for it, but like I still feel kind of groggy doing like 4 hours each way the drive. But other than that, I'm good, man. Got a new pug. AMC's going to the moon. It's good. Life's good.
Nice.
Well, how was your week and weekend?
It was good. It was interesting, laid back, just taking care of a bunch of, little odds and ends, and then working during the week. So kind of running on fumes a little bit, but other than that, I guess, alive, kicking, and healthy, so I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folk that can't claim the same, unfortunately. So to be waking up on this side of the dirt than the other, right on.
I agree.
Now, I wanted to ask you because you were pretty involved in a lot of scenes in your day. But
Yeah,
are you watching like any of the current product of anything? Are you watching wrestling right now?
I'll watch a little bit of NWA Power. Sometimes, to be quite honest with you, I can't even sit through an episode of Raw, SmackDown. I can't stomach 5 minutes, no offense to anybody, but of AEW. I don't watch much of anything. I know Impact Wrestling's still around in some form, but that's even different these days.
Yeah, it's a it's a kind of a quandary, right? Because if you would have told the young versions of ourselves at the height of our fandom, like, oh, you get wrestling all the time, like access it, like screw the tape trading, you could just put it into this thing, right? That you talk into, it's going to be a thing that you view things to, and that's going to access you to the internet. And I'm not talking about AOL message boards. This is like a whole new world. Like, and it's all for free for the most part. Are you in? We'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah. But
Exactly.
now it's like I like, and I'm not trying to be the cool kid in school, but like I like New Japan. I do. Like that's of any current product, right? Their stars feel like stars. Their wrestling feels like wrestling. One of my favorite euphemisms, that I grew up, as a kid with was Gorilla Monsoon going like, "Oh, you didn't go to the pay window if somebody lost," right? That was so big, right? Not everything had to be a title match because there was only three titles to boot: the tag team, Intercontinental, and WWF for that WWF audience, right? So not every, you couldn't everybody couldn't contend for a title, right? So with that all
Yeah.
being said, you know the stakes of, hey, you have to win, otherwise you're not going to go home and make your monetary means, right? That was a
Yeah.
stake that unfortunately is lost today.
I agree. Totally agree. So do you keep up with much of anything that's going on these days?
No, I've got my toe. I dip my toe, but I also dip my toe like in the MMA sphere, jiu-jitsu, all that, whatever. So like I've got surface knowledge of everything that's kind of going on, but am I deep into it? Like, the height of my fandom, because I had a younger sister, was Brett versus Owen Hart, right? Like that was that was the end all be all to me, right? So does anything excite me as much as that did during the height? No.
Yeah, I hear you. It's definitely changed, and I think I hate to say sometimes too much is not a good thing. I was kind of brought into this business giving them, dangling that carrot, giving them just enough, and then taking it away.
No, 100%, 100%. And that's the mark of any performer, right? Any good one, right? Is you leave the audience wanting more because that's repeat business. That's as the kids now say, the residual income, right? Where they're gonna want you want them to want more of you, so they're gonna buy a piece of merch. They're gonna buy the next date on the tour. The next time the tour rolls around their you know their neck of the woods, they're gonna be there, right?
Yeah.
That's the residual income that used to be, and I don't. Yes, you can say like the saturation, because the UFC right now is kind of going through the same thing, because during pandemic, ESPN, you know, they paid him. I mean, this is pre-pandemic, a bunch of money to the equivalent of 250,000 or 300,000 paid pay-per-view subscription. That's what the UFC got per every time they ran something on ESPN, whether it be a fight night or a pay-per-view. And I because of I think since July there's only been 3 weeks, not consecutive weeks, just 3 weeks that there hasn't been either a pay-per-view or a fight night in the UFC, right? So it, with that insatiable, kind of need for content, you can't remember any given thing per show.
Which is amazing, because I think in recent memory, kind of the word on the street is they've done pro wrestling better than pro wrestling's done pro wrestling.
No, 1,000%. That's it. It's a legitimate fight. Which Nate Wren has a question. Did you enjoy watching WCW or WWE more?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I watched WCW back when it was kind of like a lower end Southern promotion, kind of drifting off from the NWA into WCW. So I don't know. Kind of, to me, when I was a kid, I loved pro wrestling. It was all larger than life. It was all a big deal. And they give you just enough to watch to where you had to buy that pay-per-view every 3 months they had.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the fact that the big three then ended up big four pay-per-views. So, the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. I forgot the other one, but definitely Mania, right? SummerSlam. There we go. SummerSlam, Survivor Series. It was like, God, what was the big? It was the big three first, right? SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Mania, and then there was another one. I forgot.
Yeah, it was what? It was WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series.
Rumble. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But it actually meant something, right? Rather than like when imagine, right, if remember like the Brett versus Lex, they tumbled over the top rope and everything like that.
Yeah.
And well, it wouldn't have mattered because there's two titles on each respective show. So Lex could get a title run as well as Brett, and there would be no stake.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I met Lex Luger. He is like, I've heard over the years people have said different things about him, but he is one of the nicest guys in the world that you'd ever meet.
That's what I hear. I mean, he's truly reformed from the days where he was asking the locker room, "Hey, did anyone steal my DMX tape?" as a way of kind of getting in with the younger crowd. So kudos.
Yeah, very, very much so. I even asked him because I worked a show with him, and he was backstage, and I was at the LA Sports Arena, and this was right after he body slammed Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid. This was maybe 3 weeks later, if that, maybe 2 weeks. But he appeared at the LA Sports Arena at one of the final cards where they were coming out every 3 months. I know they came out a few other times after that, but as far as the whole Los Angeles Sports Arena run, it was very much towards the end. I don't remember who he wrestled, but I just remember he came out and he was the narcissist. And this was
Wow.
after all this aired on TV.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And I asked him, and he gave me the best answer. I told him, and he just laughed. And he goes, "Boy," he goes, that's interesting." He said, "Looking back, then you get away with it." But he said, "Now, like these are like legit questions." And he goes, "The only thing I can think of is they booked this probably 2 or 3 months in advance before they even thought about how they were going to go about everything when they did the turn with him." That he said it was probably, if he remembers correctly, it was just obligations they had to meet.
Yeah, it's fun because there's actually a video roaming around the interwebs, right, of Lex actually coming out with the winged eagle, right? Because they were trying to test the waters, which again, those are things that you could do back in the day because there was, I mean, here we go, almost 30 years removed, and those are just starting to circulate to a generation of people that were like, "Who's Lex Luger?" Which our generation, like, what do you mean? The first guy, like, the reason why a lot of people watch Nitro is Luger jumping ship and all that, whatever. And yeah, it was just, yeah, again, when wrestling was pure.
Yeah, very much so. I heard there's a petition to get him in the Hall of Fame too. I hope he gets it because he does deserve it.
I think so. I think, not to be the gloomy Gus or whatever, but it's when they're playing those promo packages and he's chiseled out of granite and whatever, and then he comes out and he's in a wheelchair, about 120 pounds. It might not be a good look for him. One, and then look at what happened with the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal kind of getting canceled, right? So
Yeah.
the Liz, Miss Elizabeth thing, that's still
Well, but that whole thing with Miss Elizabeth, I mean, I think people blame him for stuff like that, but is it really his fault completely what happened? And I know that's kind of a controversial thing, but at the same time, it's like I know people have said certain things, and it's like, really, like, can you say that somebody is that person? That I don't know.
yeah.
To me, I know it's a gray area, but
Yeah. I mean, wrestling is always going to have that, right? People are still going to want Benoit to go to the Hall of Fame. I'm like that.
yeah,
That's not.
yeah,
That's
that's
not
a
cool.
little, yeah.
Yeah. So, and Tiltbrook says first game Mania, second game Survivor Series, third game Rumble, fourth
Yes.
game SummerSlam. So thank you, Tiltbrook.
Yes.
Yes. And Nate Wren says, I think WCW having Ric Flair being president was the best of times. They should have just given the world title to David Flair.
Well, you know what? I have to say, only thing I could say to that, back then, not so sure, but now, looking back, David Flair wasn't so bad.
He wasn't.
I think he
Okay.
had potential.
I think Charles Robinson, Little Nate's the referee. That's still. I mean, that's with the WWE and has been since WCW closed its doors. I think he actually did the title better than, or just the gimmick better than even David Flair.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. But I've seen David Flair. I know he did some stuff in Puerto Rico, and I know he did a lot of the independents in the Carolinas. And I would say back in the early to mid 2000s, I thought he became a pretty decent worker. I don't think there was anything. I mean, a far shadow what he was when he was in WCW.
Right.
But I thought he, at least at what I saw, I don't know how much he did, but I thought he had potential and he improved a lot. So I'm not going to knock him.
Well, there was a lot of guys in that that late era of WCW before they got bought out. That like Mike Sanders, above average Mike Sanders.
Great
Oh,
talker.
yes, like he was almost like the template that like Ken Anderson, Ken Kennedy, ended up becoming. Like that,
Yeah.
almost similar build too, similar presentation. Although Kennedy was just at a wee smidge taller than Mike Sanders, but damn, dude.
Yeah, he was yeah, I don't know whatever happened to him. Didn't WWE sign him and then he just kind of
Yeah, he went to HWA. He was there with like Nigel McGuinness, like Les Thatcher's Heartland Wrestling Association when that was a developmental, right? I think it was in oh, like not Ohio, Cincinnati, right? And did some runs with them. You know, did some runs with them, and then some of the guys that got signed, and some of them didn't, unfortunately. And yeah, he was just and Palumbo and Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare. Those like Sean O'Hare doing swantons at what 6'7", like it was just incredible.
that's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. And Alex Wright had so much potential. I still can't believe he didn't go to WWE, which
Yeah.
I think I think he might have had. I'm not sure if he had one of those AOL Time Warner deals where they paid you, eons of money to not actually wrestle. You just stayed off, right? So
Yeah, he could have, Disco Inferno. I thought he was another guy that would have went over to WWF, right?
yeah, I think he just
The
had so
gimmick
much.
was, I think his who he was tailor made. I think more for WWF, WWE than it was WCW.
When you think about it, I just think that the guy Gin Gilberti had way too much heat, because when you think about it, William Regal is there, you know, uh, Jericho is in the WWF where they've might have had, when he was, you know, nothing against Disco Inferno, right? It just, there was a reason why they had him booking TNA, um, you know, of Disco Fever, dude. I was all into it. But he was just one of those dudes where I think he coming in, he had way like almost to a lesser extent of what Jerry Lawler went through. When he first came into the WWF, people literally defecating in his crown and whatever because he had stiffed so many people, back in Memphis that a lot of those guys that he stiffed are there and are top guys.
I've worked with Glenn, and Glenn's an interesting guy, but I like him. I like him. I see a lot of his viewpoints to things, and I've worked with him, and the guy could work. So I thought, into some fashion, I know there's some goofiness, and people, goof on him about the Invisible Man and building and all that. But he truly, I think he's a great mind for wrestling. I think at least compared to a lot of what's out there today, I think he could go into AEW and WWE, and I think he could, behind the scenes, help them a lot. Just with little things that, like we talk about the magic back in the day that people forget. He believes in that, and I think he could help implement that in some fashion.
No, 100%, 100%. I want this to be true. Tilt Brooks says, "I heard Alex Wright did not make it to the WWE because he became a big star on the German version of American Bandstand slash Soul Train. I don't know if that's real or Memorex, but I want that shit to be real. That shit's real to me, damn it, real to
Hey,
me.
hey, you know what? I could see it and I could believe it. So we'll just go with that.
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah, dudes.
exactly. Yes.
Das Wonder
Yes.
Kid, Das fucking Wonder Kid, man.
Hey, one thing I'm going to say about him, and I was telling my friend Chris Kloss and another friend recently about this, he is the only guy that has wrestled Triple H and has defeated Triple H in every single match he's ever worked against him. So the bigger question brings to the table here, is he the true King of Kings?
Oh man, I wish I knew the translation for king in German because I would just
Yeah.
whatever. So I'll say Auf Wiedersehen is literally what happened because one Paul Levesque still had it stuck in under his craw that Alex Wright beat him and WCW Worldwide in like '93, and he's still hot about it.
And you know what? Who knows? Maybe that's the reason why he never went to WWF, WWE. Maybe there's something there to that.
Don't let the
Who
truth
knows?
get in the way of a good story, and damn it, that's a fucking good story. So that's where I'm gonna,
Who knows? I mean, we're just talking here, so who knows? I don't know if that's truth or fact or could be anything.
I'm just, yeah. Nate Wren wants to know, who are some of Eric's favorite legends he's ever worked with?
Wow. Worked with a few. I've worked with Gangrel. Always pleasure working with him. Surprised he didn't get further than he did. I know he got fairly high in the Attitude Era, but I thought he could have, kind of cracked that ceiling, definitely. Worked with DDP. DDP's great to work with. Yeah. DDP, very regimented to work with, which, could be a little, overwhelming. But other than that, he was great to work with. He's truly a great human being, very positive, and the person that, you hear about, very motivational, like that's really him. It's truly him. So I enjoyed working with him. Oh man, there's quite a few. Al Snow, definitely. We talked about Al Snow last time. Al Snow's beyond fantastic on every level, and I know you've met him. But I've seen him in another light too, and he's just really great. All I could say is the 2 shows I worked with him, when he came out, easily the biggest pop of the night, and the way the fans responded to him is the way I remember wrestling being as a kid. So
I love it. Now, Tiltbrook wants to know, who is the biggest lucha stars that Eric has worked with in the ring? And I want to believe Noyab Mil Mascaras, but that's no here nor there. I just wanted to get that Noyab out there.
I worked a show with Mil Mascaras, but I don't remember if I refereed his match or not. All I remember is he was separated from everybody else in another room in a building somewhere from where we were working.
And he went over, right? Because Noyab.
Yeah, he went over. He did his splash at the end. I remember that. So maybe I did ref it. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I remember he pretty much came in for the hot tag and the finish, and that was it. But biggest stars, lucha stars I've worked with Ultimo Dragon. Yeah, in San Francisco at the Cow Palace for that ill-fated Wrestle Fan Fest in late 2007. Wasn't the best experience of my life, but
really,
I worked with him and Billy Kidman.
Okay, what happened? What can you
could communicate? Let's just say communication with Ultimo Dragon was difficult, and working with Billy Kidman. Is he still with WWE? I don't know.
Yep.
In some fashion. It was a miserable experience.
Really?
Yeah, and all I could say, the best experience from that was working with DDP when he did a run-in. If it wasn't for him, I could obviously say in every aspect the whole thing would have fell apart. It was abysmal, at least from my recollection.
Wow, jeez. And I mean, after that show, it became no more, right?
The Wrestle Fan Fest, yeah, there's a whole story behind that. I mean, we could even talk about that if you want to. But to finish the question quickly about famous luchadors I work with Blue Demon as well. And Blue Demon, just a class act, super cool human being, a businessman, but at the same time, one of the boys as well. And just, I can't say enough good things about him. I'm not well versed in lucha, but talking to him, he understands and he told me too, he appreciates the American way, the way American guys work. And, he appreciates all the top stars, like, what Vince McMahon's created. Like, we had a long discussion about all that, and it was, pretty cool and enlightening. But to go with the Wrestle Fan Fest story, I don't know if you want to hear that,
yes,
but
let's do it.
that was quite a deal. Boy, the trip to and from was something in itself too. I don't know if you've heard of T-shirts, the legend of T-shirts. Boy,
Go
he's
for it.
a guy who's been around the Southern California wrestling scene for many years, well over 20 years. He started working for XPW behind the scenes back in the day, and became friends with Chris Kloss and a few other guys like the late Dynamite D, and I became friends with him later on when I broke in, and let's just say we packed me, Danny Ramirez, and Anthony Rosas, all the referees for the Wrestle Fan Fest show at the Cow Palace that day. We packed up in Van Nuys, drove all the way to San Francisco, and we arrived late. Like, we were running behind because of traffic heading up the 5, and then we had to go through Gilroy and then head up the 101 into San Francisco. Kind of a very interesting experience, but once we got there, the show didn't start for about 2 hours until after that.
What?
I was going to work with, first thing we do when we walk in the Cow Palace, we see Eric Bischoff off to the side.
Wow.
Talking to a bunch of people. Then that's the first time I meet Hack Sandman. He's there hammered out of his mind. I think that was right when WWE let him go around that time, but super cool guy. So we go backstage, and I remember Kurt Angle was supposed to be on the show. There were a bunch of guys that were promised for this thing, but a lot of them didn't show up for one reason or another. And I was supposed to originally work with Kurt Angle that night. I would have worked with him. I think he was going to wrestle Abyss.
Oh, wow.
I ended up working with Abyss, but it was like him and Shark Boy against two other guys that I think Lance Hoyt was one of them, and I don't remember the other guy. I just don't remember. It was a very interesting experience. There were a lot of guys there that were mad because they knew already that the promoter had skipped town with the advanced money, which was pretty bad. The Cow Palace only had maybe about 300 people there, period.
Is that the one where Hogan wanted to charge people in the elevator? Was that the one?
No, he never showed up. I think he might have been scheduled to appear there, but he didn't. Like, a lot of people just no-showed for that whole weekend. But there was a lot of interesting things. That's where I met Chavo Guerrero Sr. for the first time, and that was an interesting experience because let's just say he was the life of the party, and but a fun, knowledgeable guy, another guy that I learned from, the guy that broke me in Alex Knight, knew him way back when in El Paso. So by telling him I knew him, he accepted me right in and was just a really super cool guy. But yeah, we had a lot of interesting experiences that weekend, and that was the weekend where Lex ended up being paralyzed in the hotel room.
What?
Yeah, you don't know if you heard the story of why he's in the shape he's in now. You ever heard about it?
No.
So you don't know why he's...
I heard there was like I know it was some sort of impairment.
Basically what happened, and I could be wrong. I know I either read or listened to something that he appeared on, but I guess during a plane flight from Atlanta to San Francisco, I guess something happened and he hurt his neck, and I guess he ended up cracking his neck, and something didn't feel right. So he cracked his neck, and then he fell asleep in the hotel room after he checked in, and when he woke up, he couldn't move from like the neck down.
Wow.
And he suffered a spinal stroke.
What?
Yeah.
And I mean,
because he was originally going to wrestle on that show too, I believe.
Oh, so he was. So I mean, this is Lex in his, post WCW glory.
This was post WCW, but I think he was already at the end of the road, like he was having hip issues and stuff, but he was still wrestling occasionally, and they were going to pay him a lot of money to wrestle at the show.
Damn, that sucks.
I remember hearing about that whole thing, and it's very kind of humble. You get to the Cow Palace, and that's one of the first things you hear. It's very humbling and very, I don't know, just not a good feeling. Not a great start to that weekend too, which was a whole host of other issues.
Yeah, I mean that's an eerie foreboding of what was to come.
Pretty much so. I remember Jimmy Snuka, I believe, wrestled on the show as well. I mean, there were a list of who's who. Greg Valentine, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Demolition was there. They didn't wrestle. The Dudley Boys were there. The Steiner Brothers. Met
Wow.
Barbarian for the first time there. Another super cool guy. Tough dude, but super. Like, I'd put him on a Mount Rushmore. If you got 5 or 10 people, he's definitely on that list.
That's cool. That's cool. Speaking of cool, Tilburg goes t-shirts. There you go.
So no, a lot of people know the legend of T-shirts, believe it or not. We were at a TNA, I think it was Bound for Glory. Was it 2009 when they were out here in Irvine?
Right.
I think it was during the Abyss Mick Foley match where they had like thumbtacks. They did a bunch of insane stuff. At least for TNA, it was insane, and it was stuff Mick Foley was used to. I remember at the end of the match, they weren't chanting Mick Foley. They weren't chanting Abyss. Somehow, T-shirts, this guy I brought up earlier, somehow made his way to the front row, and there was probably at least a couple hundred people chanting T-shirts at the top of their lungs
10 points.
for their WrestleMania pay-per-view.
10 points. That works.
Yeah.
That works. And speaking of that ill-fated San Francisco trip, George Hermosa, our friend, says, "You can say more. Trust me. Billy Kidman isn't watching." Oh.
I know he's not watching, and I don't know. I just remember him not the most gracious guy in the world, very off-putting, and let's just say, I mean, nothing. It's not like he didn't show up professional or under the influence or anything. He was just kind of half in it, half not, and just, I don't know, just seemed like he kind of big timing everything. And of course it showed during the whole match. And I think Ultimo Dragon was there too. And more or less, I felt like, for my opinion, he was there to collect a payday as well.
Wow.
And that was it.
Yeah.
But DDP, that experience in that match, the positive of that is I got DDP did a run in, and great guy.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
That works. In terms of like people that are in particular places, like now that kind of you had that you worked matches, like you worked with the Bucks a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've worked with the Young Bucks.
So like,
I've never had.
Do you have any like Buck stories or?
Matt and Nick, I like them personally. I think as people, I could talk to them. They were always gracious and real nice. I don't have any problem with them on a personal level. I think professionally, I don't agree with things they do. Or I'm more on the Jim Cornette philosophy, and I see a lot what he says, and I've seen things they've done on shows that are not the most professional. So the best way to put it, I like them personally. Matt and Nick, I know you're not listening to this, but I like you guys. But at the same time, a lot of what Jim Cornette says is spot on.
No, and everybody's got different tastes of wrestling. Like I don't like Roman Reigns. It's not like I think he's a shitty person or whatever. I've never liked the presentation that he has on WWF TV. You know, even when he was in FCW. Liake, what is Liake? Fucking don't know, right? He just and Seth Rollins, Tyler Black is kind of like that, where they literally did this like for YouTube kind of piece going about like before you were a superstar or whatever, right? And he had like different names, like something the Destroyer. What was something the Destroyer? Fucking don't know. I just needed a name. You were Blix. What was Blix? I don't fucking know. I just needed a name.
Yeah.
Tyler Black. Pre WWE, you were Tyler Black. That's what got you your first world title at Ring of Honor. Blah blah blah. What was Tyler Black? Fucking don't know. I need a name. That
Yeah.
is your fucking top guy? One of your top guys? The fuck? What are we doing?
But you know what? I know you're not a Roman Reigns fan, but out of the three, he's the, at least in my opinion, the best of the three of the Shield. That's my opinion.
He couldn't fucking lace anybody in Bloodsport's boots. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. I don't know if you've seen it. It's work shoot style, no rings, whatever. Moxley can go to Japan and have believability and work that.
I've worked with him. I don't know if I told you, but I've worked with him.
Oh, please tell stories.
Not much. He was another guy, kind of like a Billy Kidman. Not much to say. I don't know, didn't get the greatest impression of him and working with him. I worked with him and Tommy Dreamer. It was a Falls Count Anywhere hardcore match. To me, still to this day, nothing against the guy. Great for him. He's making millions of dollars right now. And anybody that can, my hat's off to you, but I don't see what's so special about him.
Ooh, Mox?
Yeah. If anything, I think, to me, I think his wife is a journalist who, she does podcasts as well. She's more, I think, talented. One of the two.
Renee Young is great. But you take everything you said about Mox, aside from everything that you said about Mox, I say about Roman Reigns. I don't see it.
Really? I guess it's maybe a different. I don't mind Roman Reigns. I get your opinion. I don't see him as the top guy, but at the same time, I think he's a good worker. I think he has a great look. And I think compared to what's out there now, what they have, he's probably in my opinion, one of the better ones they have. I mean, compared to someone like Drew McIntyre.
Drew's not good.
And no, Drew's got a great look and everything. I'm not knocking that, but yeah.
You could look like $1 million. I mean, if just looks alone, whatever, then what's his name? Tom McGee would have had like 18 titles. He would have.
You're right.
Flair's record.
You're right.
Who's the other one? Brockus. Brockus would be fucking, still here at fan conventions, charging $500 a pop for his signature, or a $10,000 cameo like Undertaker. You wouldn't even fucking know Undertaker. If looks alone were it, Brockus would be Undertaker.
No, you're right. You're right. I get that equation, but yeah. I mean, I don't know what's to be said. I mean, it kind of talks about the current product. I mean, you see someone like Nick Aldis, who's doing great as NWA World Champion, but he's not in the top company like WWE. Little suspect.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen now that Aldis's wife Mickie James is no longer with the company. I think it's like less of a fucking chance of happening, and
well, I think he's got heat. I've heard he's got heat with a couple people too over stupid things. So it's like, I think that's how things kind of roll these days. So
yeah, no.
So I have a feeling, you know what? No offense, I'm not going to knock, because who knows? Vince McMahon might not even know who he is, just because of given of other politics below the surface there.
Oh, those are facts. Those are fucking hard facts. Which George Ramosa, I love George Ramosa. George Ramosa, incredible human being, amazing.
I've known George for a few years.
Yeah, amazing fucking channel called the Wrestling Chatter here on YouTube. You definitely check that out. Subscribe for sure. But yeah, he says Roman Reigns would destroy everyone in Bloodsport.
I can't answer because I don't know.
No, that's just like, could Roman Reigns beat Misawa in his prime in All Japan? Probably not. So just saying. So, and then I believe the match is Dreamer and Moxley in Dragon Gate in Phoenix. Was that the match?
Yeah, that was the match. That was the match. That was. I don't know if you want me to tell another interesting story, but I worked with the original La Parka on that show.
Really?
was hammered beyond belief, and another unprofessional guy as well, in every sense of the word.
Wow, that's not
Yeah,
fun. So
yeah.
what you're saying is Court Bauer has his hands full in MLW because he's got him and then two of his minions, and his son and
Well, he's
probably
got
his
also
nephew.
he's got what? He's got the isn't the Almighty Sheik working there too?
Yeah, yeah, as Samael, Joe Samael.
Okay, interesting. That's interesting. Just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. Nate Ren wants to know: has Eric ever been hit with a steel chair before or during a match?
No, I've never been hit with this steel chair, but I've been hit by a steel chair because I was trying to block something. I worked. I don't know if I told you about my Adam Pierce stories.
I know you have a few.
Yeah, and Adam would tend to lose it at times, and I one time caught something he did in my elbow here. For probably about 4 years afterwards, I had this indentation and scar. Like he indented like my elbow. Like it was pretty brutal. Like
Not
just one of
nice.
those things where it's kind of like you're thinking, okay, like I don't know what else you could say about that.
Yeah.
That's why I laugh. And you know what? I'm just going to be honest about this because I got nothing to hide. When I see guys like that, and I heard he posts on social media saying all these things about how humble he is, and who knows? Adam could have had a change of heart. He could be a different human being now. You know, he's a family man. You know, but things that I saw back in the day, and I know there's other people out here in Southern California that will tell you differently. Or if they won't tell you differently, it's because they're afraid to tell you.
Mm. Yeah, there you go. Now, Yaz Beats wants to know. I have two questions. Who are your favorite wrestlers, probably of all time, and what is the biggest challenge being a referee?
Favorite wrestlers of all time. I mean, like I know we've discussed. I mean, if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan and being a Hulkamaniac, I would have never gotten into professional wrestling. So I think he'd have to be on the list for sure. I mean, when the Attitude Era hit it, I mean, like everyone else, Stone Cold Steve Austin, another one. Ric Flair. There's always something about Ric Flair, even as a kid. He was the guy you loved to hate, but at the same time, there was something cool about him. I mean, he had great matches, and later on, you realize that when you get older. But just looking at it from the standpoint of who he was, there's just something about him, and it stands the test of time and always will.
I like it.
Ravishing Rick Rude was another one.
Yes.
A legit tough guy, looked the part. Was he the greatest athlete? But really, does that matter in professional wrestling?
Warrior was
How,
on top for a
how
fucking
many
long. They
moves
got a
you
war.
did?
They got a fucking award after him. I'd rather a Rick Rude fucking award than a Warrior award. Good God.
The fact is, my father remembers taking me to the LA Sports Arena and to the Great Western Forum when he worked for the WWF and then WCW, and remembers just things he would do on the microphone and just small little things he'd do, generally speaking, and it left an impression on him. And for a non-wrestling fan, that says a lot right there.
No, 100%, man. I love those the Minnesota boys, the contingent, right? The Mr. Perfect, the Vern Gagne's, Barry Darso, right? Who's one of the members of Demolition. Who else? There's a just that Minnesota, like either in the AWA or were highly influenced by the AWA. Man, I just tremendous, fucking tremendous. And I don't think they get a lot of love because people are not familiar. When they think like old school wrestling, it doesn't go beyond 95.
Yeah, I would say that's about right, 94, 95.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, another one who I appreciate, I mean, I appreciated as a kid, but now more than ever, Bret the Hitman Hart's another guy I really appreciate as a worker. I think, the way people said he took wrestling too seriously, but the way I look at it is I don't know if he took himself too seriously, but he took what he did as his job seriously because he was trying to convey a certain thing, because he wanted to make money. He knew the pressure was on him as world champion.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the business, he knew every facet of it and what it took. And if anybody watches his match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear on the old Edge and Christian podcast everything those guys went through in that match and the end result of everything, I think speaks volumes on how great of a worker, wrestler, whatever you want to say, Bret the Hitman Hart is. So I think he should be at the top of the list as well, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, he's on mine. Brett and Owen, I think, are like number 1 and 2, and then everybody else kind of falls after. But my list is weird. I've got like Vern Gagne is in there, the Funks.
Really?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Terry's
Vern
great.
Gagne. Oh,
Terry's.
Oh yeah, Terry XPW. You got any
Yeah.
stories about Terry Funk?
Again, like Barbarian, like some other guys, like, referee Patrick Hernandez from XPW, Gary Key Tool, a few other guys, Chris Kloss, like one of the nicest, most humble human beings you'll ever meet. When he comes backstage, you know he's a grizzled vet, but he doesn't act like it. He doesn't show it. He goes around shaking everybody's hand with a smile on his face and treats you like you're his equal.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, it was the Wrestle Reunion, 2011. I think that was the last year that they did it at the LAX Hilton or Marriott or whatever the fuck, Sheraton, one of the LAX airports. Hotels. But I had lost my dad, like, because I think it happened in January, second week of January. My dad passed Christmas of 2010. It was
Oh, sorry to hear about that.
No, thank you. But in a low place, but I was like, wrestling is the salvation. And I sprung for the fucking, what is it, the VIP meet and greet and whatever. And it was so weird. My phone died, but I had like a replica NWA title. And at the end, it was Bret Hart, Terry Funk, and Roddy Piper fucking
Wow.
just talking, whatever. And I was like the last one in line. And Bret was just like, whatever. But Piper and Funk signed my NWA title. It would have been cool in retrospect to have Hart sign it too, because it's just such an oblong fucking thing, Bret Hart on the NWA title. But
yeah,
well. But I give the belt to Piper, and what does this mean to you? He points at his ear, and it was like we knew, like that was the fucking, the dog collar match, him and Valentine, right? And it's funny because Terry is just like he knew me. Hey, pal, like in that fucking Terry Funk voice, and I couldn't have been better, And again, like this is Piper. Okay, those three: Piper, Bret, and Terry Funk. If they're not on your top 10, what do you even know wrestling, bro? Do you even know?
Yeah,
the all-time
absolutely.
greats.
I mean, there's so many guys, so many guys. Even like one of my all-time favorites, and someone that long forgotten who never made it quite in the limelight, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know this, but if it wasn't for him, I don't think there would have been an ECW, like legitimately.
Yeah, because what was it? Him in Puerto Rico, right? Him in Puerto Rico. If that didn't happen, then Heyman doesn't get the book for Eastern Championship Wrestling.
No, he died in Puerto Rico, but he was the original booker of ECW when Todd Gordon decided to run out of a sports bar, and they started having TV, which started in '93, I believe. And when they started doing their monthly shows at the Bingo Hall at the ECW arena, like he was there for the start of that. He brought the Memphis flavor to Philadelphia, and that's what kind of eventually spawned into ECW. And supposedly Paul Heyman took the book from him, I guess, a lot of people said in the know that basically wormed his way into it. And people I know, and I don't know if Terry Funk wants me saying this, but briefly I talked to him because I mentioned Eddie Gilbert. He pretty much said a lot of Paul Heyman's ideas and things we've seen over the years and even to this day is because of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Wow, that's a true mark. I mean, not a mark, but a mark on the business is what I mean. Yeah, that's amazing. Kind of catching up. Tilbrook says, I remember seeing Luger compete as a narcissist a few weeks after the USS Intrepid at the Seattle Center Coliseum, which later became the Key Arena, which was a home arena of the Seattle Supersonics, which apparently that fucking doesn't even exist anymore. Like Gary Payton, Detlef Schrempf, like they just don't exist because their team is not there anymore. It's weird.
Yeah, but that's crazy. So I guess that would probably be right because then maybe within a week or two they were from LA, or who knows, maybe it was slightly before. But on the West Coast loop from Seattle to LA or LA to Seattle, makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's some good times right there.
I wish someone had fan cam footage of that.
I know. I'd say it. Yeah. But Nate Wren wants to know, have you ever gotten to work with Tonga Kid?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I know people that know him, but I've never worked with him. I don't even know if I've ever met him. I've met and worked with Rikishi, his brother.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think I've ever met him.
Okay. Tilbrook wants to know, can you confirm at the San Francisco event, is it true that T-Shirts approached Virgil while he was in the urinal to ask him if he knew where the $1 million belt was?
Yes, and I was actually in the restroom right when that happened.
No shit.
So I could confirm on it. Virgil basically, I don't want to say he was drinking. This was outside in the hotel lobby at the bar, but we were in the restroom and T-Shirts asked him about, hey, I think I might have provoked it and asked him, hey, you should ask him whatever happened to the $1 million title because we never really saw it after he won it. And he rambled something about it being probably on Vince's, in a case on Vince's fireplace somewhere, but he was just rambling off about something for about 30 seconds. But yes, I can confirm 110% that happened. And I saw it too.
That's great. Yeah, good on you for fucking poking the bear. That's great. I like it. Fuck yeah. Can you also confirm, I also heard at the San Francisco trip that T-Shirts passed gas with Brutus the Barber Beefcake in the elevator?
I could confirm that happened as well. It was me, Chris Kloss, our friend Devin, who used to be a cameraman for PWG, and I think he did XPW some stuff for them back in the day. Trying to think who else was with us. Anthony Rosas, Danny Ramirez, maybe Shark Boy. I could be wrong. But yeah, Brutus the Barber Beefcake was in the elevator with us at the Sheraton with 2 coolers, one in each arm like this, those styrofoam coolers. And right before the bing to get off at his hotel room floor, T-Shirts, pass gas. And all of us were like, dude, what are you doing? Gross, man. Did you just fart? And then Brutus Beefcake got off and he went, yeah, man, that's not cool. And then just walked on off. Yeah.
Which, that's an addendum because Tilbrook wants to know, what were both Virgil's and Brutus Beefcake's reactions towards T-Shirts after those said scenarios?
I don't know. Virgil just looked back in bewilderment and walked on off, kind of in his own world. Virgil, I think Virgil's in his own world too. I don't know if you've ever met Virgil or know people that have met Virgil. He's kind of another interesting character.
You want to know my fuck Virgil? I'm gonna just say that right off the bat.
I've heard that a few times.
No,
not that I have anything personal against him.
Do you want to know my Virgil story?
Go for it.
Okay, so Silver Nugget Casino in Vegas, way off the strip. I don't even think it was technically Vegas, right? But the first time, I didn't know. I was like maybe 8, right? Didn't know shit from Apple Beller, indie wrestling. Didn't know it worth a damn because I saw guys like the Junkyard Dog, Iron Sheik, Jim the Anvil Neidhart on this fucking card, and I'm like, oh, it's fucking wrestling. Like the wrestling that I know. These are names that I know, right? So in the silver, so it actually there's a little bit of a Jim Danville Neidhart story tinge in here because in the Silver Nugget Casino, the arena was actually under the fucking casino, right? So you had to kind of wait in line in the casino, and then you go descend into the arena. So I'm just standing there. It's me, my dad, my mom, my sister, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna meet like Jim Neidhart, and he's gonna be, like he's Brett's partner. I didn't even know that they were brother-in-law at this point, but it was just like part of the Howard Foundation. Maybe Brett will show up too. Like, oh shit, right? So I'm just waiting in line, and I get knocked to my ass. I look up, and it was fucking Jim. His stomach fucking hit me, and I took a back bump, like fell flat on my ass. His Jim the Animal Neidhart's stomach was like fucking like an anvil. It was just so hard, knocked me on my ass or whatever. And he's in full gimmick, but his straps are down. This walking bare chested, whatever. Because apparently I was in front of one of those old cigarette dispensing machine, the one that you put the money and pull the gimmick and fuck out comes
Yeah.
the cigarette. I was standing in front of it. He needed his Newports, and he just, that's it. So getting down there, right, and they've got the fucking meet and greet and everything like that. And I wanted to meet Virgil. This is somebody much like the Junkyard Dog. Now, in retrospect, Junkyard Dog way bigger. But as a person of color, there weren't too many, guys that I could kind of look up and go like, this is the thing that I like. And there's somebody that is representative of me, right? So get to Virgil, and I'm waiting to get my autograph, and he's like, tells my mom, looks over at my mom, was like, how would you like to be my valet next match? This motherfucker, in front of me, in front of my dad, fucking hits on my mom, my Fijian mom, and she's just like, that'd be great. And she torments my dad for like the fucking 3 months after it. So fuck Virgil, sir. Fuck you, Virgil. Hitting on my mom.
Sounds like a Virgil story, wouldn't it? I've heard some interesting ones, so.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. Yeah, and then Georgia Moses says something about WrestleMania 26 weekend. Do you have any memories of WrestleMania 26?
Was that in Arizona? I'm trying to remember. It probably was.
Probably was.
There were a lot of interesting stories from that week, and that's when I worked that Dragon Gate show that week. And I remember somehow Santino Marella ended up in some bar we were at, and we ended up doing shots with him. This is when he was kind of really hot at the time.
There you go.
Someone I never saw break character at all.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But he couldn't fucking do it for Cornette and Boogeyman?
Huh?
But he couldn't
I
do
don't
it for Cornette and Boogeyman? Like probably 2 years before?
Yeah. I don't know, but I pretty much was Santino Marella what I saw.
Wow. That's fun. That's fun.
I'm trying to think what else happened that week. And there were a few things. We ended up at a Waffle House. I know there was some stories there, but I was kind of buzzed, so I don't remember that. We ended up at some low rent strip club near the Phoenix airport. I mean, this was like, we're talking like hood type of strip club. Like just, if you remember the old LAX strip club on Century and Aviation, it was along those lines, but a lot smaller.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually the first one I went to, and I ran out of there just screaming. It was bad. It was fucking bad. Although there are some where I've literally seen, like, driving home from work and, like, in tassels or whatever the fuck, and they'd go to the car, the strippers would go to the car, and their kids would be in the car. I've seen that too. So,
That sounds about right. Oh, but one other
yeah.
story from that weekend. One of the things that I find hilarious was on the car ride to and from. The thing that was glaring to me is George Hermosa wanted to play the latest Lady Gaga's track and looped
Was
it
it Just
over and
Dance
over. Huh?
or Poker Face? I want to believe it's
It
Poker Face.
was from that album. It was like 3 or 4 of those songs I remember hearing numerous times. Sorry, George, I had to say that.
No, I know. No, that makes up for George's love for Roman Reigns. His love for Lady Gaga. So, George Hermosa, you and I are here. We're here. Yeah, man. And Andrew Priscina, shout out, says he can confirm Adam Pearce, piece of shit.
Well, I'm sure eventually there'll be more people that will come out. I know there was somebody I talked to, a promoter from Southern California, maybe 3 or 4 years ago when he got signed. That I'm not going to say anything. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, no worries,
Yeah,
no worries.
I don't want to bury anybody who's not coming public.
Yeah, no worries. Nate Wren says Lance Storm was so underrated.
Who?
Lance Storm?
Lance Storm?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against the guy, but I'll be honest, outside of his whole pouring gimmick that he did with Austin, I don't remember a whole heck of a lot about him. So nothing against Lance, but
He was one half of the Thrill Seekers. Hot damn. You know, he was in the fucking van with Jericho and whatever when Cornette cuts a famous promo on the lady at the fucking Dairy Queen.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
Well, that's cool in itself. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a guy in XPW. What was his name? I'm trying to remember from up north. He was friends with the ring announcer Ron Head. J.R. Benson. I think he was involved in that Dairy Queen incident too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, let's see. Tiltbrook says, speaking of Barry Darso, as a kid, I used to think a Reaper Man would be lurking around my neighborhood at night, a little terrifying back in the day.
Yeah, I could see that. I was about 9 years old at the time. Yeah, you never know, someone lurking, and yeah, sounds about right.
You know what? Until the fucking Last Ride documentary and whatever, I wasn't entirely convinced that if you fucking shut off all the lights, I wouldn't hear a gong, a shrill of a pallbearer, and Undertaker, old school Undertaker, 91, 92, well, 90, I guess 93 era Undertaker coming and just rest in peace. So, just saying.
You notice all the evolution of the Undertaker over the years. Before the end, they kind of slowly brought a little bit of that aspect back.
Mm-hmm. No, 1,000%. True, like amazing performer. And even now, it freaks me out just to hear him talk like him on Rogan was just so fucking weird. Now it was great because those are like my two worlds converging, right? MMA, pro wrestling, and podcasting, right? But it was just weird as fuck just to sit and listen and watch Taker for 2.5 hours as just a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. George Ramosa says Piper and Terry aren't in my top 10.
Well,
That's
if they're
kind
in
of
your top 10, they got to be somewhere.
But he's probably got Roman Reigns on top. He's booking whatever. So I actually, as a great thank you to he is great, George Ramosa, for letting me fill in for him on the 83 Weeks podcast with Chrissy Olsen, Steve Kaufman, and Eric Bischoff. I got him a pair of Roman Reigns socks because George Ramosa, in my book, is way over Roman Reigns, and he will remember it every time he puts those Roman Reigns socks on his feet. He's over. He's over. Just saying. Nate Ren has his favorite wrestlers being Gorgeous George, David Flair, Ric Flair, Eric Watts, Brian Christopher, David Sammartino, the Tonga Kid, Giant Gonzalez, Sean Stasiak, and Sim Snuka.
It's an interesting list. I mean, there's some good ones on there, though.
Oh man, I almost now I want to see like a throughway of Great Khali, Giant Gonzalez, and what's that fucking name? The guy in Memphis, George. It was the one that his dad ran Memphis. God, George Moses is probably gonna know the answer. But
Jeff Jarrett?
No, George Gulas. That's it.
Oh, George Gulas. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. So, I want to see them, those three, Giant Gonzalez, George Gulas, and Great Khali in a Punjabi prison match, and then it'll kill the business, so it'll be dead. That's it.
Hey, and I'm putting you a spot on the air here. One thing I'm a little confused about, and no one's been able to answer for me, is Jeff Jarrett still with WWE in some capacity? Okay.
And he's got a side deal, because that is one of the many Conrad Thompson, Steve Kaufman fucking productions. So yeah, I'm just saying.
Well, that's why I was confused. I wasn't sure if he was still connected to WWE at all.
Yeah, he's still there. He's still there. Yeah. Alex Ramirez, shout out to the sponsors, the Prime Athletics, because he says they helped him get in the best physical shape of his career and working out with one-on-one personal coaches. So shout out. I'm glad that worked out, Alex. And yeah, primeathletics.com. That's what you want to do. If you're a fighter that needs management, if you're somebody training that needs gear, or one-on-one personal coaching, Prime Athletics is where you want to be. So yeah, shout out. Yeah. Oh, wait, the Blue Moon. Is that the bar? Or is that the stripper place in Arizona? The Blue Moon?
That sounds familiar. It might have been called the Blue Moon.
Wow. That is, somebody posted that in a group, and I didn't have context. But was Marty Hill there too?
Yes, Marty was definitely there.
Okay, so you gave me great context of a picture that got shared on a group that I didn't know. I didn't have any. I've never been to Arizona. So
One story from there was a local wrestler somehow we met at one of the bars in downtown Phoenix, and I'm sure the other people that were there with us, Raven, Marty, George.
Yeah.
Local independent wrestler that worked for, I think, the Navajo Warrior out there at one point, somehow followed us to the strip club, and it was very, very eerie, creepy, and uncomfortable, the whole situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if that's a gimmick to work, man, you got to work your gimmick. Otherwise, you can't work.
Almost Norman Bates level.
Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah. Nate Wren said he got Boogeyman to break character once, which is a fun little take on, because Santino got slapped the shit out of in OVW by Jim Cornette for breaking character when the Boogeyman or whatever. So that's a nice little fucking turning it all on its head, having Boogeyman to break. So kudos to you. I love that story, Nate Wren. Good job. Alex says that Mark Henry is the dude that never broke character. One guy I've learned from others and not to interpret the man, especially when he's working as a heel on TV. So I guess he got into fisticuffs with one world's strongest man, Mark Henry. Ooh,
wow.
Alex.
It's one big guy, so.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, there might have been a fucking time that one of the Uso brothers weren't kind to me, and I was like, oh, like, fuck him. So, yeah.
By the way, there's something I do have to mention because Jim Cornette keeps coming up in this conversation. I have heard through reliable sources that Jim Cornette knows who my friend and Chris Kloss's friend, Bob Cadden, is.
I like that. Right on. Right fucking on. Yeah. That's over. That's fucking. I might have two Jim Cornette action figures here. So yeah, corny, straight out corny. Hell yes. Um,
Hopefully,
and
he's getting his royalties.
yeah, no, he's got it. I mean, they were literally. Oh, ooh, I like it. Thank you, George. Roman isn't on my top 10. Thank you. Good job, George. That's why George is the man. One of the many reasons why George is the man. But yeah. Um, Yasbeats wants to know: have you ever met Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yes, I have met Stone Cold Steve Austin. I met him at that Wrestle Fan Fest in San Francisco, and very nice, very professional, very gracious guy given the circumstances and everything that happened there. He appeared as advertised, and even though I think him along with the other people might have gotten screwed a bit on the money end, he did as advertised for the people that were there. So got nothing but good things to say about him, from that meeting, and it's class act.
No. Yeah, the one time I met Stone Cold, I was actually working at Hertz at LAX. That was my first job as an 18-year-old kid, and I was working like I think it's the gold service where you don't even have to go into the fucking building. They just the car that you want right there, whatever, and you just fucking drive off the lot, right? Well, we all know that Stone Cold Steve Austin, and this was the time when he was kind of backing and forthing it between his place in Texas and eventually moving to Marina Del Rey, right? So he comes and like he's walking towards me in the fucking Stone Cold walk, and I was like, oh shit, right? Everybody knows that Stone Cold gets a hardtop white Ford Mustang, right? That's just whatever, right? I think they even go through that in training or whatever. Somebody, it might have been a Freudian slip or whatever, put this son of a bitch in a blue Daewoo. Remember they made cars, the fucking sound
Yeah.
systems, shit cars, but amazing sound systems. A blue Daewoo, like fucking,
Wow.
like their version of the Miata, like hatchback
Yeah.
or the Fiesta hatchback. And he's like,
Wow.
hey kid, can you fix this for me? And he gives me his fucking, the what is it, the car rental
Rental agreement.
agreement, and his fucking ID. And I'm like, and I go back into the office and it's like somebody fucked up, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm usually mild mannered. I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like the customer's pissed, whatever." It's like, "Who the fuck is the customer? Why is this a big deal?" And I showed them the fucking deal, and I said, "Look out the window," and they're like, "Oh no, we're getting it," and whatever. And like something got returned like right then, and they fucking like within 3 minutes we were able to clean it and get it to Stone Cold. And he goes, "Thank you, kid." Now I was reading a fucking PWI, right? Like at work and shit like that. So I was like, "Hey, would you?" And he signs it for me, and I fucking lost it. I think
Oh,
like my
cool.
ex-girlfriend had it, but
Ah.
yeah, I know. Oh, oh. Yeah. So, but yeah, Austin's a good dude. Austin's a good dude. Tilbrook wants to know who's your guys' Mount Rushmore. He's got Gorgeous George, Bruno, Hogan, Austin.
Ooh, that's good. Mine's pretty similar. I'm going to go Gorgeous George, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock.
Okay. I've got.
Now, I'm doing that. Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I'm doing that because those are probably the biggest money drawing guys ever in professional wrestling.
Okay. I've got Vern Gagne, Strangler Lewis. Well, no, fuck. No. You know what? I'm going to actually replace Strangler Lewis with Luthez, right?
Okay.
So, Gorgeous George, Austin. You put, and the way that my rubric is like, you can put those guys in any given territory, any given era. You can be like 1920s with fucking, Hackenschmidt and Gotch. You can be current day Attitude Era, whatever, and they will all draw money. And also, without the AWA in Gagne and, you know, the NWA with Luthez, like, we wouldn't have wrestling as we know it, for better or for worse.
No, that's right. I agree.
So everything you trace back, you were like, well, there's Dusty Rhodes, there's Harley Race, and whatever. And Harley Race is definitely in my fucking top 10. But again, Harley Race worked as a young kid, right? As a young kid, he worked fucking Luthez, and you don't get Flair and Dusty without Harley, right? So
Yeah.
you those four guys, you trace everybody either actually working or influence or work for in the promoter instance. Those are it. Yeah, yeah. I know I got fucking dorky with it, but like, when you like, there's a NWA book that chronicles like the formation of the NWA up until like the mid 2000s and shit like that, and you'll really know, yeah, like fucking Thez. Thez is definitely top 10. Top 10.
Hey, just to let you
Okay.
know, I my phone battery's dying, so I got like about maybe 5 minutes left. Just to give you a
Okay.
heads up.
So,
Yeah.
uh, Tilbrook says I almost separated Bruno and Luthez. That's close. I could have either gone Austin or Rock, but I went with Austin since he came first. So right on.
Got it.
Yeah,
He's one of the biggest money drawing guys of all time.
hundred
Never seen a
percent.
bigger pop in arena. It was so loud I couldn't hear his music.
That's that white heat. That's so hot,
Yeah.
hot. Yes.
Yeah. That was in
Um.
'98, at the peak of everything.
Damn, that's good. That's so good. Um. Nate Wren wants to know, and that'll be the last question. But who is Eric's top 10 referees of all time?
Wow, top 10. I don't know if any particular order, but I would say, Earl Hebner for sure. Joey Morella, Nick Patrick, Mike Chioda, top 10, Tommy Young.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, trying to see. Pee Wee Anderson, he was pretty good, very underrated. People don't talk about him. Trying to think who else I'd put in
Timmy
there.
White. Tim White.
I like Timmy White, but to be honest with you, I don't remember much of his matches off the top of my head, like him being in any huge matches. I would say this is top 10 of all time to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd have to put Patrick Hernandez in there for sure. I think he's great and underrated. Was the guy in Memphis who did all the matches in the 80s. Feel bad I'm not remembering his name right now. Jerry Calhoun.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Right. Great referee. Gosh, I'm trying to remember who else was in there that I
What
put.
about
Go
David
ahead.
Manning? World class.
David Manning, he was very good. Yeah, I'd put him in there.
That's okay. Two more.
Two more. I want to be legit with this, so I just don't want to throw names out. I know I'll remember this later, but you know what? I'll put Marty Elias on there.
Okay.
I'll put Marty over and put him on there.
All right.
He was pretty good. I thought one more.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go because somebody that I respect highly, the legendary Jesse Hernandez.
There you go. That's it, man. No, Eric, it's been great to do the part 2. We got a little bit more invasive this time around. And again, if you guys want to check out the other instance where Eric is sharing his stories, definitely go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast and look through the archives because it's there. It's fucking there. Just saying. Oh, Red Shoes. That's a good one. Or Tiger
Yeah,
Hattori.
yeah.
Tiger Hattori. That's a good one too. But yeah, Eric, this has been great. Thank you so much. And
Hey, thank you, Adam.
oh, the pleasure's all mine. And again, if you guys want to get a hold of him, hey, I might be a liaison as well as our good friend, good brother, Chris Kloss. So hit us up if you guys want to hit up Eric.
Thank you so much, Adam.
No worries. And thank you guys for watching. But go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. And if you don't believe me and don't take my word for it, I don't know why you wouldn't. Here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make